Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the RSCast that season number 9, week number 7 recap. As always, we're back here with the GOATs themselves, Barmanitan and Sennji. Welcome, welcome.
Here we go. Another week in the books and, very quickly approaching the business end, keep mentioning it, of the RSC9. But here we go. Another recap and can't wait to get into it and examine all of these results.
Absolutely.
Well, as always, we're going to start off with the prospect tier, with the results, and also we're going to start off with the first side of the conference, the Glaciers conference. Barmanitan, I see here you've picked out Prelude with that 3-1 onto Majors, and Micah Faction getting that 4-0 sweep onto Limousine, and Zeno getting the 3-1 onto Tartarus.
Yeah, I think the Prelude Majors game is very important for the development of this table. Prelude, they're further down at the bottom, and Mages have been struggling there. They've fallen further. Not as much as previous weeks, but they've definitely still taken a hit with this Prelude loss, and means that Prelude definitely still have a chance at chasing up to those rest of the playing spots. And, not a game that I think many would have expected them to take like that, but they did it, and they got that victory under their belts. In Micah Faction, they rebounded from their loss last week with this sweep over Limousine, and they even managed to sneak 2 IC3 games in there. So they got some sub games in, they won 2 OTs, and really picked apart this Limousine side that are still sitting at the bottom. It's a table where the bottom can still win, unlike or can still make play-ins, other than like some other tables where the bottom has fallen a bit further off. But yeah, Limousine still in with a chance, but another 2 losses this week. They're getting further and further apart. Zener taking down my team Tartarus. Maurice was complaining that I wasn't talking about us when we were winning, but now we've lost and I'm talking about us, but it's because it was a deserved win by Zeno. They played better than us. They got their win to go positive last week, and really means that they make it a little bit closer in this middle of the pack. They could end up catching us, and this Glitzy side is looking very, very tight.
Looking tight indeed. Alter with the 7-1 week, and then obviously Majors, they lose 3-1 to Prelude, but they get the victory against Terra. As we go to the Ignis conference, Sennji, I see you've picked out here, you've got Pluton getting that 4-4 week versus Cardinals and Caro, which seem to be the 2 top teams for now in Ignis.
Yeah, they currently are sitting at the top, obviously, and I think it's really a statement from Pluton to be able to go up against the top 2 teams who currently sit in those playoff spots, and to go draw to them, to not lose to the top 2 teams. I think it really shows that this Pluton side is not only looking for a playing spot with potential good chances, but that they are looking to, if either Cardinals or Caro might fall down in the next 2 weeks, maybe swoop up one of those playoff spots and secure themselves an upper bracket run for those players. And I think that was really, really well shown by them.
Yeah, we've also got Overton, who had a really good week for themselves, getting a 6-2 week, 3-1 onto Caro and Exelon. For Overton, this was a massive week for them. Before heading into the start of this week, they were near the bottom of the standings. They needed some big results to, have that playing potential. And, well, they keep the dreams alive. And also Underworld going 7-1, the 3-1 onto Oxygen and the 4-0 sweep on to Fearless Echo. And then Luna Oberon getting the 3-1 onto Iztok and the 2-2 onto Exelon, keeping the play-in hopes alive. But this is your results for the prospect tier as we go to the Glaciers standings first. And we'll bring it to you, Barmanitan, as we do see the standings shape up a little bit, and Alter still holding their lead in first position.
Yeah, they seem pretty uncatchable at this rate. Another 7-1 week, which it's just par for the course at this rate from them. They go 6 clear of Micah Faction, who, they're still getting good results. They might have had that loss, but they get that sweep on the Limousine, and means that they're still making their claim for second place, as Tartarus and Mages fall further apart. They don't fall in positions, but they definitely fall in wins as Micah Faction open up that 3-game gap. 3-game gap. Icicle and Zeno, they're holding on 5th and 6th, holding that game gap over to Hot Metal and Prelude, who had positive results as well this week. I think you can say for most teams that they had something in there that they can really take forward and at least be hopeful for the last couple of weeks. Maybe other than Terra and Limousine. They both lost both their series. They're both 8 games off of the pace to make playoffs, and although they don't have the worst goal difference, Prelude just somehow take claim to that despite being 3 wins ahead. They definitely have cause for concern here. Only 16 games left in total for this one, so they need to win at least 8 of them, and probably a lot more, because obviously Zeno and Icicle are going to be pushing even further up in those wins.
Every team is still possible for the play-ins in the Glaciers Conference, but as we go to the Ignis Conference, Sennji, we see Istok, they're 7 behind in the position that Limousine are, only sitting at 13 wins, and we still see Cardinals at the top.
Absolutely. I think in the case of Istok, this season is done and over. They will, with 16 games left, they could get up very high, but let's be honest. I think they will not reach any further than their 10th place at the moment, as they do have a huge 7-game gap. Right above them is Oxygen, who might look a little bit better, but then again, you look at the gap they've got to 8th place, which is a 6-game gap, and it doesn't really help you at all. But at the top, we've got a very interesting battle for those first spaces. We've got obviously Cardinals, who has a little bit of a gap to Coro and Exelon, but those two are really close to each other, fighting for the playoff spot. And then obviously we've got the intense fight for top 6, in which Overturn still has very realistic chances, especially after such a week that they just had, to grab a spot of maybe Fearless Echo or Underworld and move into those play-in spots.
Yeah, it's definitely a scary position to be in. I know I'm scared for my own team here because Luna are looking very strong recently. And Overturn, I mean, getting a really good week. They're going to look like a team to beat for now in that lower end of the standings. But this is your Ignis standings in the prospect tier for week number 7. As we go to the fixtures now to see who are going to be coming up against each other in week number 8. Which series are going to be the crucial ones for these standings. And starting off with you, Barmanitan, in the Glaciers Conference, is there any matchups here that we should look forward to?
Well, we have one of our famed top 2 clashes. These teams that are pitting themselves for the playoffs are going to be going up against each other. It's Alter and Micah Faction on the 7th. And, you know, Alter pulling away. This might be Micah Faction's last chance to try and make that comeback. I think they're the only team capable of doing so at this rate, considering Tartarus and Mages have fallen that bit behind. So, yeah, that's a really important one to see if they can grab that trophy for the Glacies. Tier, if we look elsewhere in the table, you're maybe looking at Mages Hot Metal, considering Mages are on a downturn of form. They got a win last week for the first time in a while, but Hot Metal, I think, have been on the rise overall. They've only got 2 losses in the last 5 games, and only 4 games off the mark could be a potential game that Mages will slip up on, especially when their other matches, Micah Faction, who are just looking better and better each week. Will I pick out one more? Prelude Zeno, because Prelude got 2 wins last week. Zeno still went positive as well, but they're the ones holding down 6th place at the minute. So Prelude and obviously Hot Metal, but Prelude in this matchup could narrow that gap just a little bit.
Yeah, for Zeno, their games are crucial. They're holding that 6th position. But go over to the Ignis Conference now. Sennji, what matches are you looking forward to? As we do not see, actually, we only see 2 games here that are today, and they are both from Underworld. So we could see the standings shift very soon.
We could see, but what I really picked out are especially the Pluton games, as you say, one of them play against Underworld today, and the other one, I think that is tomorrow against Fearless Echo. It is an absolute clash in the middle of the table for those play-in spots. And if Pluton, who had a good week last week, if they're capable of beating both of their opponents this week, they really make a strong case to go into play-ins to secure their spots in the play-ins and maybe even push up for Caro. But then again, one team that I'm also very much looking forward to is obviously Overturn, with what a week they've had. They are now going to face Cardinals, which is the top team. If they can get such a result against them as they did versus, I think it was Caro this week, where they got a victory. Yes, it was Caro. Exactly. When they're capable of performing like that against Cardinals, and then they've got the Underworld to take on. And I think if they're capable of going maybe 6-2 this week, they will push out into those play-in spots.
Personally, for me, I'm going to be looking out for Luna Oberon, playing Cardinals and also Caro, 2 top teams. But Luna, they are a team who can take games onto the top teams. And for them, they're only 1 game behind the play-in spot. So it's a crucial week for them before their last week of league play. But this is going to wrap it up for the prospect tier for week number 7. As we head up to the challenger tier to see what juicy results happened in week number 7. Starting off with you, Barmanitan, as he pointed out, Neptunium getting that 3-1 onto Glacier, and Apprentices, the 3-1 onto Shrine, and Pyromancers getting the 4-0 sweep onto Zyron.
So this was an absolutely brutal week for Glacier. One that was maybe foretold last week with their couple of draws, but they finally found their first loss of the season, and it wasn't even against Neptunium, it was against Xeron, and you're maybe thinking that's just going to be a blip, but no, they followed up with another loss to Neptunium, who perhaps the weaker team that compared to Xeron, and Rubik's got 461 points per game for Neptunium in that series, so really big statement from them, but massive concerns now for Glacier, winless in 4, and this chasing pack is all of a sudden right up with them, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can bounce back from a week like this where they've gone 1-7. Elsewhere in this table, we saw Apprentices take down Shrine, as you mentioned, and the 3 matches that Shrine lost, they played Sennji, their sub, and then they brought in their main roster for the last game, and they did grab a game at least, but definitely shows how you still need to have chemistry with your sub, because otherwise you're going to be losing a few too many games, and that will damage Shrine's chances jumping up into these top 2 positions, because they went negative this week, and with Eric popping off, he got 498 points per game for Apprentices in that series. It's always going to be difficult. You got to respect them, and you got to play your sub games at some point, but it's a damaging one for Shrines. Chances, and then Pyromancers sweeping Xeron. After Xeron's 4-0 sweep of Glacier, they go and play Pyromancers, the other top 2 team, and they realize what these top 2 teams are capable of. King KZ got 525 points per game in that one, and Pyromancers really looking quite a lot more settled at the top. They're only ahead on goal difference of Glacier, but they have the form to back that up, so they're looking a little bit more convincing to try and take this crown for the Glacier side.
I feel like we've cursed Glacier here, Barmanitan. Ever since we, gave them credit for the no losses, they've just all of a sudden draw, loss. So I guess they can blame us for that. But heading over to the Ignis conference here, Sennji, I see you've picked up here for the results of Cerberus getting the 4-0 onto Masai, Helium getting a 3-1 onto Masai, and also Crusaders getting the 4-0 sweep, and Arcus getting a 4-0 as well. And there's quite a few 4-0s here actually in the Ignis conference.
Absolutely, this table has been shook a bit by this week, I would say. Obviously, we've got Masai, who had a good week last week with their 6-2, but then this week they've been thrown back to the bottom of the reality and shown by some other top teams that they're not as good as they might have hoped they were after last week, and got just thrown down a little bit. Especially, I think, mentally could not be the best week for them. Then we've got 2, in my opinion, very huge surprises. We've got Crusaders sweeping the Fearless Delta, who are in 3rd. Crusaders currently in 8th place. That definitely surprised me when I saw the results. And then the even bigger is the bigger surprise, Arcus sweeping Overrule. I don't know what exactly happened this week in Challenger Ignis, but it definitely surprised me.
Well, I guess I got to defend my boys a little bit. We had 2 FA subs. We didn't have our star player, nor. But either way, it is a good result for Crusaders. A brilliant result. Also for Arcus. Arcus 4-0 and overall. Wow. Absolute stunning performance from them. But that's going to wrap it up for the results here in the Challenger tier. As we go to the Glacies standings first, as per usual. And Barmanitan, as we look here, we've got that 2-way tie for 1st and 2nd. And even teams behind them can still fight for that top 2 placing.
Yeah, Xeron and Parthenae have done well here to keep this close. Shrine going negative, Glacier going 1-7 means that Pyromancers will rise to the top, but Xeron and Parthenae really are keeping this close, even if Xeron do get overtaken by Pyromancers this week, who've made quite the surge to top spot with their superior goal difference over Glacier. But it's going to be one of these fights for top 2. Who's going to get that vital second life and buy straight to the playoffs. Just have to keep watching, because these teams are going to be playing each other in these last couple of weeks to try and stake claim to those positions. And we have Neptunium jumping up into 6th, utilizing that win against Glacier to great effect, overtaking Izuku Gang on goal difference. And Apprentices only one behind. They got that win last week, but still not enough. They didn't do as well as Neptunium did, because they won both their matches when Apprentices won and lost. So that is the reason that has happened. And Zuko Gang, I think they went level. Well, they won and draw, so they actually went positive as well. But Neptunium just did that a little bit better. Chorus fall off the mark a little bit here, but still only 4 games behind. Orcus, it's a different story, but Chorus are definitely still in this. And yeah, it's going to be a good fight for 6th and a good fight for 1st and 2nd, I think, other than Orcus's per Hopestone in it 10th.
No, you got this wrong. We know we're going to make plans.
If you make one more flip the table joke, Sennji.
You never know. But might get the first dub, and it might shoot up from there. It might do the Zulu. You never know. But only time will tell for that. But heading over to the Ignis conference, as we don't see a two-way tie in first and second, Sennji, but we do see it in second and third, and we see a lot more teams climbing for that play-in spot.
Absolutely. I mean, Cerberus had a good week this week, and it shows on the table, especially with Overrule not having the best of weeks by getting swept there by Arcus, which surprisingly still lost positions on the table. And again, I think we see very close fight for the top 2, and we see a very close fight for the top 6, a little lower on the table. But we've got Luna Atlas, who in the end play the same role in the table like we do over on the Glacy side, with having not that good of an outlook. I mean, mathematically still possible for both these teams, but highly unlikely.
Yeah, also with 16 games less, well, Luna would literally have to have 100% win percentage. So, Luna, if you could somehow pull out of the bag, then fair play to you. And actually, I do believe they have signed a new challenger roster for the last couple of weeks. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they have. But either way, you never know. Anything could happen. They could disrupt the table against other teams, but this is the challenger standings for you as we head over to the fixtures to see who will be facing who in week number 8. A crucial week for many of these teams. Starting off with you, Barmanitan. Any matchups here that you look forward to in week number 8?
Yeah, there's always going to be matchups that matter at this point. We've got more in this fight for 6th place between Neptunium and Chorus. Chorus, that team have fallen a little bit off the pace, but they can bounce straight back with that match against Neptunium if they are playing up to the task. Matches in the top half of the table, we've got Xeron taking on Shrine. That's 3rd versus 4th, that one, only one game apart, and both trying to catch up to the top 2. And Shrine, again, playing against Glacier, they've got quite the week coming up against them, as they have both opponents in this top half. They're fully in control of their own fate here. If they win both their series, they will be rising into the top 2, almost guaranteed. So they can definitely make a statement here. And then, actually, we just have another top 2 fight as well, like we have in Prospect Glaciers. We have Pyromancers versus Glacier at the top. There's everything going down in Glaciers this week. And, you know, there's a lot of statements to be made here.
And that'd be a top 2 matchup to watch for sure. But as we go to the Ignis conference here, Sennji, any matchups here that take your eye?
I mean, it's not quite a top 2, it's a top 3 matchup, but still, Fearless Delta versus Cerberus at the top of the list here is definitely going to be one of the highlights of Ignis Challenger this week. Then I think one very interesting game is going to be Cyan versus Scorn. Scorn obviously coming from an 8-0 week and looking to overtake Cyan as fast as possible to get into those comfortable top 6 positions. But if Cyan manages to pull out a victory here, they could potentially start with a gap on Scorn and kind of make themselves a little bit better positioned. Then I think we've got the Crusaders versus Scorn, which is also in the same region of the table with kind of the same stakes involved. And then obviously the Masai versus Cyan game also into the same category, and with the possibility of Masai pushing up into the top 2.
Yeah, it's going to be a big week for Scorn. They're literally playing the team that are 1 win behind them and 1 win ahead of them. So it's going to be a very crucial week for them. They also got Arcus playing Luna Atlas. So if that goes their way, they could, look good to climb that table. But they also do have to face up against Masai, which is no easy challenge. But remember these fixtures, chat. These are the teams that will be playing in week number 8. So, if you need some teams to go your way for a result, look out for them. But that is the challenger tier all wrapped up as we go up into the rival tier. And starting off with you, Barmanitan, I see that you have picked up here Concerto getting that 3-1 onto Montbéliard, Blizzard getting the 2-2 on Sorcerers, and Zyphos getting the 4-0 sweep onto Erebos. Sorry.
Yeah, Concerto, they take down the Ox Gaming team in Montbéliard, and that is an upset on the table because Montbéliard were ahead of them, and now with that loss means that Concerto have caught up with their 2 wins this week, and they just lost both of their games before in week 6, so really good recovery from them in week 7. Looking at teams like Glacier this week, that's what we're looking for. This is a great example being set by Concerto to find that recovery. Then the other thing about that was it was 3 1-goal games, so it very easily could have gone Montbéliard's way, but Concerto stuck it out and made sure to find those clutch moments. Blizzard took on Sorcerers, and that one was a back and forth one. It went Blizzard Sorcerers. I think, and Copy for me was a standout player there. Looked, and he got 8 goal involvements between the goals and assists for Blizzard, and that was a big reason why Blizzard were able to keep it so close in a top of the table. If there are so many top 2 fixtures going on recently, we've that one between Blizzard this weekend. Then there was the other one, Xephos taking down Erebos. It's definitely a blow for Erebos because Erebos were ahead of them when that one happened. But Hera, 7 goals and a lot of points per game as well, did a lot for Xephos. And I think I pointed him out last week as well. So he's consistently getting high numbers for this team. And although it hasn't put them into a playoff position just yet, if they can keep it up in these last couple of weeks, there's definitely still hope in it for them.
I hate that chat doesn't have belief. Kingsman, he's starting to fire up that we've not picked out a result. Hey, wait a minute. You got to wait for me, Kingsman. I was just about to pick out Uranum's 6-2 week. The 4 onto Journeyman, which was on a team, holding that playing spot on them. And they do get that 2-2 onto Blizzard as well.
Buddha, your mic okay?
I'm right here.
Okay, do you want to try to say that again? Because that did not come through.
Nope.
Okay. Where did it cut out from?
I'm not sure. quite early on, I think.
Alright, well, overall, I was just picking out Uranum's 6-2 week, the 4 onto Journeyman, and the 2-2 on Blizzard. That's what I was basically picking out. But heading over to the Ignis Conference, Sennji, I see here you've picked out Fearless Charlie's 2-2 onto Unity, and the Sentinels 8-0 week onto Luna and Overkill.
Exactly. I mean, obviously with Fearless Charlie versus Unity, that we had a top 4 game, and showing that there was a 2-2 just shows that those teams really deserve to be close to each other in the standings. Then, as you would expect from number 1 team, we've got Sentinels with a 8-0 week over Luna and Overkill. To be fair though, both of those teams are currently at the bottom.
And we also got Yoruba getting that 3-1 onto Neri, the 2-2 onto Toxin. So Yoruba keeping their hopes alive. But Unity, as you've always mentioned, it's a really good week for them. They've really climbed up the standings as we've gone on. But these are your results for the rival tier. And we're going to go over to the standings first for the Glaciers Conference. As we see, Blizzard, as always, they are sitting in first. But the gap has closed down. And top 2 here, Barmanitan, might be starting to close out for these teams below them.
It might well be the case that this is already enough, but we saw it this week where an Arctic Frenzy team goes with 2 draws, and now Glacier have lost their 2, so maybe a bit concerning for Blizzard in terms of that pattern, but Sorcerers do catch up on them a little bit here with their win and draw when Blizzard only had 2 draws. It's good news for them, although, it's still the same position in playoffs overall. Montbéliard stick 3rd, despite their loss to Concerto, and Concerto will jump up above Sanctum with that win. Makes it only 2 wins between those 3 teams from 3rd to 5th. Then we have another fight developing for 6th place here as Uranum with that 6-2 week will jump over and leapfrog Journeyman into 6th place, but there's definitely still teams willing to chase Xephos with that sweep over Erebos. Erebos also got a win of their own last week, so plenty going on there in terms of these teams, in terms of opportunities to fight for positions in the table. Arena Tribe, we keep saying it that they're not mathematically out, but another team that season is pretty much over and they will just be playing for the fun. And as you mentioned a couple of times, that opportunity to dictate what does go on in the table above them.
Yeah, for sure. They could take games off those top teams that, could decide their seeding for the playoffs or play-ins, but heading over to the Ignis Conference, Sennji, we still see Sentinels, sitting on top of their throne. They've been first and pretty much all season long. They probably haven't been there for a week, maybe. I can't remember. Either way, Sentinels been dominant as always, and we see that bottom 2 probably not going to climb for that top 6 unless somehow they make an absolute insane comeback.
I mean, we've talked about around about the same thing with the bottom 2 last week, and it kind of shows this week that those 2 are just fighting for the pride of not being lost. Unless Barmanitan, you flip the table. Obviously, and then we've got a very interesting fight for the top 6, with Nitrogen currently being 2 games behind number 6 spot with Pandora, and up at the top we've got Sentinels cruising along, but Fearless Charlie is absolutely in their shadow. They know exactly there's not much that we need to gain on Sentinels, and maybe could even overtake them on the last 2 weeks of this season, and the rest is just going to find which placement exactly they will have this season.
Standings looking close and rough for these teams, but finishing up on the standings, we're going to head over to the fixtures to see who is playing who in week number 8 for the rival tier. Starting off in the Glaciers Conference, Barmanitan, which fixtures here are going to be the big ones?
Again, there's definitely big games in this set of fixtures. I first thought was Xephos versus Uranium in that fight for 6th. Uranium currently holding it down, but Xephos, they've won their last game and they will look to build on that momentum going into that matchup tomorrow. So that's definitely going to influence a lot of what happens. There's Blizzard versus Montbéliard further near the top. It's another one of these last opportunities for 3rd to 6th to try and find wins against the top 2 and make sure that they're not down and out of that opportunity but before the final week. So Blizzard could probably confirm their top 2 appearance if they do well here, and Montbéliard definitely a team that will be essential to do well against, because otherwise, if Montbéliard sweep that, they're only one game behind Blizzard and it could be a little bit scarier for them. I think a lot more are a bit further apart in the table. Is maybe Journeyman Concerto. They're sort of in different fights, so they're 6 wins apart, but I guess Concerto haven't guaranteed top 6 just yet. They're looking pretty good for it, but maybe Journeyman can spring a surprise in that one and bring them back down to earth after Concerto's double win week.
Yeah, from little rumour I heard from the captain from Montbéliard, I'm pretty sure they've got an FA sub week here, or maybe for a series. So it's going to be tough for Montbéliard, especially when they got to play Blizzard as well. Very, very strong team. But heading over to the Ignis Conference, Sennji. I mean, there's some big games there, and I'm pretty sure you're going to pick out the ones that I'm thinking of, but it's looking pretty tasty.
I am definitely going to pick out exactly those that you're thinking of. As first and foremost, we've got the big fight. Sentinels versus Fearless Charlie, 1st versus 2nd. And if Fearless Charlie were to sweep that, they'd overtake Sentinels. It's that close. But then there's another big fight for Sentinels this week. 1st versus 3rd. And what better week from a viewer's perspective could the top team be facing? From their perspective, it could be the week to prove we're going to win all of it. In the end, we're going to be on the top, because when you can beat top 2 and 3 teams in your conference, you're definitely going to be one of the favorites going into playoffs. If not, I'm going to look forward to who actually is going to be able to. Then, a little bit further down the table, we've got a very interesting fight, I think, between Fearless Charlie and Pandora, with Pandora trying to get something versus a higher up team. The other game they have this week is versus Overkill, so they get a little bit of top and a little bit of bottom to face this week. I think that's definitely going to be interesting for them. Then Toxin versus Nitrogen, a battle for top 6. Same with Toxin versus Neri, again a battle for top 6. Same for example, Yoruba versus Unity. They are going to be fighting for who still has the potential to go into the first 2. That's also going to be a great game, and I'm looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it indeed. And we got that little bottom matchup, Overkill versus Lunar Hydra, to see who's going to stay 10.
Yeah, definitely. That's also going to be one hell of a big match.
So we've got Lunar's new signing as well, so you never know, the roster could take it. But that is going to wrap it up for the rival tier. This is going to be your fixtures for this week, so make sure you take a good look, as there is some very big matchups, as it is always in every tier. But heading up into Elite, starting off with you, Barmanitan. I see you've picked out Oracles, getting a 3-1 onto Saturnia, Rhapsody 3-1 onto Avalanche, and Bladesmiths getting that 2-2 onto Megamin Colt.
Yeah, another big week this week in another tier of RSC. It's Elite now, as we have moved on to. Oracle's matchup against Saturnia was quite the shock, I think, for quite a few, especially for me. Oracle's winless in quite a few matches, but they spring the table back on itself onto Saturnia, and Saturnia now on a run of 3 losses. Genkinia was the standout man. They're 604 points per game in that series for Oracles, and just about keeps their playoff hopes alive in time, as they were at danger of falling further and further adrift. Then a slightly more mid-table battle, but still quite far apart overall. Rhapsody take down Avalanche, and I think it's just worth it to point out how consistent Rhapsody have been. I mean, Bladesmiths have been setting a great precedent, but Rhapsody have been almost matching them. They're only 3 wins behind, and another good win into a mid-table team in Avalanche, with Shires getting 9 goal involvements, 11 saves. He was probably the MVP for them there, and they're really looking confident in their top 2 bid and forcing Avalanche to consider if they are even going to make play-ins, because only only 2 games between 8th and 5th, so lots of competition for those spots. Bladesmith's Megumin Cult was on stream. That was a really good matchup to be on stream, because Megumin Cult, again, proving that these lower table teams can get results against teams further up in the table. And 3-1 goal games, was a series that could have been more one-sided, but I think Kairu did a lot for Megumin Cult. Getting 6 goals in 10 demos, and Rollback even had more points per game than them. So it wasn't all Kairu, but those 10 demos really do a lot to disrupt a team like Bladesmiths, and did well to keep Megumin Cult in it and keep them up to pace with teams like Avalanche and Xalar in this top 6 fight.
Keeping the hopes alive. And as we go to the Ignis Conference, Sennji, you've picked out Venom's 2-2 onto Argon, which was on stream, and Argon's 2-2 onto Vanguards. And I mean, top 4, it's pretty juicy.
I mean, we've had that little bit of a discussion last week when we were like, is it the top 4, is it the top 3? And I think this week has shown it is a top 3 in the Ignis side, with most certain who's going to be 4th. There's definitely been a split. Obviously, Argon done well to not lose any space to them in the direct duels, but they've lost space due to facing 2 top 3 teams, and the other teams had 2 sweeps respectively. Then on the other hand, or 1 sweep respectively, and Arrows, the other top 3 team, has faced Luna IO as well, and they got a sweep there. And I think it just shows that the top side of this table is really getting close on each other. They are head to head, and as guys in chat has put out, basically all of them are even in games against each other very equilibrium. I think only Venom has lost to Luna 3-1 at some point, and that's the only difference as far as we can believe chat. But it just shows how close the competition is in Ignis, and I wouldn't want to bet which one of those goes to playoffs, and which one of those top 3, who all deserve to go into playoffs directly, has to go through the lower route into the play-ins, into the lower bracket of playoffs.
It's been a very good week for the Ignis Conference. Eros going 6-2, and also, we got to talk about Zulu here. 3-1 onto Vanguards, and also a 3-1 into Enclave. I mean, a few weeks ago, we were kind of laughing at this team, like, play-ins, yeah, it's not happening. But, I mean, it is possible as we go into the standings. You're going to see how Zulu still have a chance, but obviously we're going to start off with the Glaciers Conference for the standings, as always. So Barmanitan, as we see here, top 2 looking pretty strong, and third, 8 games behind first. They need to make a good run for that top 2 spot.
Yeah, Rhapsody and Bladesmiths again will do well this week and make the top 2 look all the more assured of their positions. It's happening, I would say, in Rival as well, where they're 4 games clear. This is a 5-game gap between second and third, so it's even more so. And despite Andrew doing their best, they are still only in a tie with Saturnia after their double loss week. They've definitely fallen further off the pace. It's somewhat allowed Rhapsody and Bladesmiths to widen that gap. We also have Andrew overtaking Xalar. They've fallen a little bit with their 2 losses. It's another damaging one for their hopes as they fall back into this top 6 fight. Avalanche do go up a place despite their loss to Saturnia. They got a win in the other match, so that was good enough for them to overtake Megumin Cult. And I made a mistake earlier. Kairu was of course playing for Bladesmiths after his roster change, but yeah, Megumin Cult, they do well with that draw against Bladesmiths to keep pace, and it is a negative week for them. They go down a position, but still doing really, really well. And Temple and Oracles, they're also keeping this really, really close. Oracles could have been down and out by now, but that win onto the teams above them is just so morale boosting and really gives them, this sort of team, belief that if you can take down a team like Saturnia, you can do whatever it takes to find your way up to 6th place. And only 3 games off the mark, it's definitely gonna be another good fight. Thanatos at the bottom, they're not quite out of it mathematically, I would say. They can get another 16 wins, but Sennji, for quite a few of your teams here, it looks like it's pretty much over. Thanatos amongst that group.
I mean, let's be honest. Sennji, you just need to sub in for those games. Like, come on.
I've subbed in.
No, I don't think it was my turn. But
I think you meant to say Rival, but yeah, you peaced out.
Anyway, heading over to the Ignis Conference as we go to the standings on this side. Obviously, we've got that strong top 3, but the bit I was looking forward to here is that playing position. It's very close, and Zulu, it's actually possible for them to make play-ins. And Sennji, are you alive with us? I don't think he's alive, Barmanitan, unless I can't hear him.
I don't think he is. Yeah.
All right. Well, as we look at the standings here, we still got Eros, Venom, Luna, Argon, and Fearless Bravo all still holding the same positions as last week, but it's very close in top three, and I believe there's a lot of tiebreakers here in the top three. I don't know it all to detail, but I'm pretty sure it's close. Argon probably holding fourth here. I don't think anyone's going to take that from them. And obviously, Fearless Bravo, they're holding fifth, but they're looking dangerous to, fall out of that top six. Vanguard's on the rise. Enclave just dropping down, but one game out of play-ins. And then Oasis only 2 games from play-ins. But Zulu. They're on 16 wins, only 7 wins behind play-ins. It is possible for the gods of Zulu, and Overtake on 15 as well. So technically, still possible for them, but they're going to have some very, very big weeks. And I mean, Barmanitan, it's just crazy to say that Zulu can make play-ins.
What a showing from them. I mean, we kept on not being the most positive about this team, especially when you go 0-24 in the first 3 weeks, but they bounce back, they keep their hopes alive, and this will be one of the stories of RSC if they manage to do this. Only 1 loss in their last 4 games, and there's so much opportunity for them to make the glory run here.
For sure, and as we go to the fixtures to see, let's see who Zulu got to play as well. But I think we've got to start off with the Glaciers Conference first, Barmanitan. Is there any fixtures here that you think are going to be really, really damaging for some of these teams?
There always has to be. It's just the way of a league so close like this. If I was to pick one, there's definitely going to be Avalanche, Megaman Cult, that first one on the list, as they are 6th and 7th, 1 game apart. Avalanche have just overtaken Megaman Cult this week, so a really, really big matchup for those two. We have Saturnia and Anju. They're tied in 3rd and 4th. That one's probably going to be whoever comes out on top of that one is going to have a chance to go top 2. The other one is probably going to be confirmed going into those play-in rounds. So another one that will tell a lot about how it's going to go. Avalanche's other match is very important as well against Oracles. That team who've just had the surprise win against Saturnia. If they grab another one against Avalanche there, they could definitely be making that run up. Not quite as glorious as Zulus, but still impressive nonetheless. And also another mid-table one in Saturnia, Zalor. And Zalor, they've had 2 losses to Saturnia, 3 losses. Neither of them are on good form, and another one could do even more damage to the mental and could do even more damage because they're lacking them at the moment. And Megaman Cult, Temple, and 7th and 8th are definitely trying to catch up to this 4th, 5th, and 6th spots. Ooh, Oracles.
Result coming in. Oracles 3-1 onto Rhapsody. I mean, that's massive for them. That's humongous.
Huge. Absolutely. And it's really damaging for Rhapsody as well, because now Anju and Saturnio, if one of them grab a win in that series, they could be pushing up and catching up to Rhapsody.
Oh, they love to shift the standings, don't they? When you think it's just about to be over, nope, there's always a team that jumps in. But going to go over to the Ignis Conference. I believe Sennji might be back. I did get a DM from him.
I am back. Yes.
You are back.
Yay!
my internet just decided to nope out and leave me out for around about a minute.
It couldn't handle the Zulu power.
It couldn't handle the Zulu power. And I think the Zulu power is what we're going to be watching next week. They take on Overtake first, trying to make up for the gap they've got up to the 8th place. If they can do that, then they're going to face Venom, and that is going to be one of the big 3 in this conference. I'm going to be honest, if Zulu manage to take a victory on Venom, I will 100% bet on them making playoffs.
The scenes, if that happens.
Just imagine. But apart from the Zulu wonder story, I think one of the great games this week, or the potential great games this week, especially regarding those top 6 places, is going to be Enclave versus Vanguard's 6th versus 7th. You can't make it better for a top 6 battle, I think. Then we've got... I don't think we've got a top team clash this week, which is a shame. We always love those, but it won't happen this week.
I think the closest for a top team clash would be Argon versus Luna. Obviously, we talked about Argon. They're probably going to finish fourth. But either way, this is kind of a series that can drop Luna down for that top two if Argon can try and get something from this. So either way, Argon could make an upset here for the Luna side. But Luna, they've not lost a series all season long.
The only team now.
The only team
to keep that title to themselves. So I mean, if Argon spring it now, then this is the moment to do it.
Luna IO, no pressure indeed for week number 8. But I'm just going to wrap it up for your fixtures. Some very, very big games happening in this week. I mean, in every week when we get to this stage of the league play. But heading up into the rival result in Blizzard, just got a sweep onto Sanctum. That's a humongous result. Sanctum, they're a respected team in that mid-table range, but Blizzard getting a sweep, holding number 1. But as we go to the master tier now, starting with you, Barmanitan, I see here you've picked out Nocturne, getting that 2-2 onto Rias Legion. Warlocks getting that 4-0 sweep onto Chianina, and Haven getting a 2-2 onto Zoo.
I think Warlocks are just unbeaten in X amount of games at this rate. They are the only team in this table. They're not lost in their last 5 games, so doing really, really well, even if it is being kept so close by those around them. And they even played Tagmata in that series against Rias Legion. Tagmata, their sub, coming in. I mean, he did really well for Finale the other week, but actually coming in for the team he's rostered to in Nocturne, and does the job. He had some good stats in that one. I mean, nothing too standout, but did enough as that player coming in to make sure Nocturne don't drop that series entirely, and still do enough to stay top of the table. Then Warlocks Chianina, it's a really hurtful one for Chianina because they just come off of I think a sweep onto Haven at the end of last week, and then they lost their 2 series this week, going 0-8. So and Warlocks, the ones to deal the strike, one of the teams that Chianina really should have been beating if they still were to make this late push, and it means that both of the teams are looking quite unlikely to be able to make 6th place at this rate. The other one was Haven versus you. Again, it's these teams at the bottom proving their worth, and Haven are definitely confirmed out, but still they grab a 2-2 draw on Deju. And I mean, maybe part of it's due to another sub-game playing. Yeezy was playing for Deju, which, you don't want to call him out entirely, but there has to be some sort of explanation there. And Haven did win games 3 and 4 in shutouts, so got to have that chemistry with your sub, and maybe Deju not all entirely there, as they do drop a couple of games to Haven, and means that they miss the opportunity to go first.
Big results heading in there, but heading over into the Ignis Conference, Sennji. I see here you've picked out some good ones. Obviously, Dogon getting the 8-0 week, and Lunar Titan drawing to Dione, and Perks getting a 3-1 onto the unbeaten Carnage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that victory from Perks has been the biggest surprise of Ignis Master Play this week. I didn't expect it, and I believe probably nobody else would have, with Carnage the first team that has reached 40 victories, if I'm not mistaken. But still, Perks has been able to finally get that first defeat onto Carnage. Then Dogon going with their 8-0 week just really helps them to clutch up to those potential top 2, which might be a bit too far, but definitely solidifying them as very, very comfortable into the top 6 to get into play-ins. And then, not to forget, Luna Titan versus Dion was probably the highest classed matchup this week, and Dion managed to get out of this fight versus second place with a draw.
Yeah, very good result there. Luna Titan trying to hold, trying to chase for that top 1 spot. Also, we've got Storm still struggling, only taking 1 win. Overwatch getting that victory, Sennji. That bottom 2 face up. Overwatch are the victors in that. So you never know. Overwatch might be saying, we're not finishing 10th. We don't want that double-digit placement. So Storm, you got some catching up to do there. But these are your results. Dogon, they might have been an FF. But as Paul said, an 8-0 week is an 8-0 week. But that is the results from the Master Tier. As we go over to the Glacies standings first, as we see that 2-way tie by Manhattan, Nocturne and Zoo in top 2. And we've got no movement at all.
No movement at all, and yet, like it has happened previously, it's still pretty much just as close as ever. The tie for first place, with both of Nocturne and Jew not having the most perfect of weeks. They both have a draw in there, and means that they stay level and leave the teams below them with a chance to still catch up. Rias Legion and Phoenix only 3 and 4 wins off the mark respectively. So there's definitely still opportunity in there for them, and both of them both went unbeaten with a win and a draw of their own. So very much a chance for this top two to continue to drop games and let these other two sneak in ahead of them. Iovy and Sub-Zero, they had a loss and a win, so a bit worse than the top four teams, and they probably fall a little bit further off the mark here, and definitely going to be looking over their shoulder the other way, and it might be a battle for these two spots developing between those two and Hades, because they're only two behind, and definitely one of the few might have Hades teams to still have a chance. But the only thing is that Hades are the only team in the top 7 to go negative. They had a draw and a loss last week, and they're heading in the wrong direction form wise to be able to catch up to Iovy and Sub-Zero. Then Chenina with their 0-8 week, quite unfortunate for them because they're now 8 off the mark, and that's definitely going to be damaging. Warlocks keep their chances mathematically alive with that sweep onto Chenina, but not looking too good for them. Haven at the bottom, but as I said, still with that draw onto Zhu, really well played from them to keep it competitive in their final few fixtures. We don't always see that from everyone, where they still keep trying to the end, but Haven clearly going to be one of the teams to do so.
You got to keep on fighting. You got to do the best you can, but that is the Glaciers Conference. Heading over into the Ignis side here, Sennji. Obviously, finally seeing Carnage drop their first series. We see Lunar Titan closing in closer. And as always, we see that good play-in fight.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it isn't too far-fetched to say that the top two are probably relatively secured, seeing that they've got a 6-game gap, and in the case of Carnage to the third place, they've got a 10-game gap in 16 games left to play. They only need to win 7 to make sure that they are going to be in playoffs. But as you say, and something that is so wonderful about the system we've got, those top 6 fights, I think in every tier so far has been close. That fight is always going to be interesting with the format we're running at the moment. Obviously, we've got Dione and Dogon currently with the same amount of wins. 2 games behind is Perks, who got that wonderful victory over Carnage. And then we've got 26, 26, and 25 games for Fearless Alpha Gladiators and Einsteinium, who are really in that fight for the last play-in spot. Or as other teams we've seen so far. And I think they still could make out a little bit of a chance if they have perfect last 2 weeks.
Oh, it's a lot more movement.
We have a result in here as well.
Yeah, I was going to pick up on that.
You find it first.
I was going to wait until we got to that part, but I guess we can put it out now. Einsteinium, the 3-1 victory, but it's onto Dione. I mean, that is a huge result for them.
They go into 6th place. They grab a playing spot temporarily, at least.
They didn't just win. They beat Dione. I mean, wow. But after that amazing result for them, we go into the fixtures. Glaciers side first, Barmanitan. I mean, as always, there's always crucial matchups, but which ones is it for you?
For me, going back to this 5th and 6th place fight, it's going to be that first one again on your list, Iovy versus Hades. Hades have to find their bounce back after their negative weekend. Great chance to do so against Iovy, the System of Solaris team, one of their main competitors for one of these spots in the play-ins. We will also have Iovy versus Sub-Zero. Iovy are playing both of their matchups in this fight for 5th and 6th. So that is going to be interesting to see. We have Nocturne going up against Phoenix. That's going to be another good one. Phoenix, if they grab a win there, they could actually catch up to Nocturne and go level in wins, but going to be no easy feat considering Nocturne's long unbeaten run, and they've gone unbeaten for longer than the current run they're on now. You know, they're a team known for it, so it's definitely going to be a challenge for Phoenix on the Sunday here. And we also have another top 4 fight, Zhu versus Reus Legion. It's that other dynamic. You know, Reus Legion win that one, then they could catch up to Zhu. So interesting developments in the top 2 here, and interesting developments in that 5th to 6th fight in the Glacier side.
Personally, for me, it's going to be Haven. I know they can't make play-ins, but Haven versus Warlocks. I mean, Haven can literally destroy play-in hopes alive for Warlocks, even though it's mathematically possible, but it is very less likely. But you never know. So Haven, they've got a big matchup there. You know, if they can take them down, then hey, they're bringing the team down with them. But either way, that is your Glaciers matchups, and Ignis Conference time now for Sennji. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can see the one fixture, but which for you take your eye?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we have got, again, a fight of the top 2 teams, and seeing that Carnage has lost for the first time last week, maybe this is the mental momentum that Lunar needs to go up against Carnage, take that sweep and drop on wins against them, which would be absolutely huge for Lunar Titan and which would make the fight for first place so much more interesting. But then again, Carnage has got to face Gladiators on the side and Lunar Titan has to go up against Storm. Both of these could result different and also make some changes regarding their direct standings. And then we've got the many games that are fighting for the top 6. As in every tier, we've got Gladiators versus Fearless Alpha in this one. We've got Storm versus Perks, which isn't that much of a fight for Perks regarding direct competition, but that is a game that you need to win as Perks, otherwise it is going to look dire for you to go on. Then we've got Overwatch and Steinium, which is probably the last chance for Overwatch to reasonably think of getting into a play-in spot, same as with their fight against Dogon, which might be a little bit harder, but then again, Einsteinium just beat Dogon or Dion, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be close in every game, I think, and I couldn't be predicting anything here securely.
And we've also got that Dogon versus Perks as well, 4th and 5th, 2 games apart. And obviously Dogon, were tied with Dion, but obviously Dion grabbed the 1 game. But either way, they're very close to climb for that 3rd spot, which is good for seeding for the play-ins, as you do get that bye. But this is your fixtures for the Master Tier. Some very big matchups, as always, as we head into the last 2 weeks of league play. But heading up to the top tier of them all, the Premier Tier. Starting off with you, Barmanitan. I see here you've picked out, well, you've probably picked out all of them, so just head it away with the Glaciers Conference.
Yeah, I'll just point out quickly that we do have a prospect result in here. It's I think it's Pluton's 5th straight draw. It's against Underworld, so another interesting development in this top 6 fight in the prospects here. But yes, on we go to Premier, and indeed I have tried to mention at least every game at least a little bit in this Glacier side. We have the Odyssey drawing with Hamoud, the only non-sweep of this week, and Lexa was the person who most stood out in terms of points per game, 435 for the Finn. So they did well against the Odyssey there. It's another close clash and another one that could have swung different ways, but it comes out in the draw and it means they stay tied in terms of game wins. And Finale ticked down Austrian Force the last night on stream. There were 3 1-goal games in there, and 2 of them were Finale coming down from 1-0 to win 2-1, but it doesn't matter, they still got the wins, and there were some really special moments out there in there from a Finale team that were scoring some very good goals. There was one slightly dire moment for Austrian Force where all 3 players hit the woodwork in the same motion of play, and then Finale scored at the other end, which was something that made me and Hop scream quite a lot. But yeah, really well done from Finale, and really well done from Luna Esports as well. They were on stream before Finale and Austrian Force, and CB was the man of the hour. 9 goal involvements for him, some of the craziest clips that I've ever seen in Premier. And overall, it was just one of the best performances I've ever seen from a team in RSC history. And of course, it comes from Luna Esports, the best team that we've seen in RSC history in general. So Cagliari were really struggling to get a foothold in that series. That 0-0 prospects against Centurions match was a forfeit from Centurion, so hopefully they get back playing on the pitch next week, because I've looked at it and it's still mathematically possible for them if many results go their way, but if they forfeit again they will be out, so let's hope that they do get on the pitch.
Well, very three sweeps on the Glaciers Conference, but heading over to Ignis, Sennji, we only see 1 sweep this time. We see much more closer results here.
Absolutely, we do. Just a little bit of a fun fact regarding the many sweeps in Glaciers. Last week, Cagliari Calcio swept the Odyssey, but not for RSC, although they rewarded it over here, and got us a little bit confused on the stats back end. Like, wait, they already played before? Why are they reporting? Why is there only 3 games? What happened? But I think it just shows that these teams know each other from other competitions, and that results can go either way. But to the Ignis side now. We've have Knoll being able to get a draw versus Macon. LG Ultra Giro came in with a sweep last week. And a little bit of a fun fact to this game, Knoll couldn't play the last game. They were leading 2-1. They had to be somewhere else, probably another competition. So what do? You FF the last game. Even though you're 2-1 up and could go for the victory, they had other business to do. Then we've got Null, who had a second game this week versus London Esports, one of the postponed games. which they were able to draw, which definitely shows that Null had a very good week compared to their previous weeks. Then Solis was able to sweep Trinitas Esports for the only sweep over on the Ignis side, which definitely was kind of a little bit of a surprise, as Trinitas Esports looked relatively solid before that. But Solis came in, swept them, and taken over their spot on the top of the table. Now we've got also both London Esports and Dust Sucker getting a normal victory of 3-1 versus Dark Magic and Nami Brigade.
Wow. The interesting results are in for the both respected conferences. And obviously, as always, we've done the results, but the standings. The Glacies conference first. If it's correct, as it always is, seems to be the opposite for the Premier tier somehow. But starting off with Glacies, and I think this is a fact that I might have to correct by you, Barmanitan, but are Luna unbeaten this season and last season? I've just heard it somewhere.
I mentioned it on stream last night. They went 9 unbeaten. They won 8 series and drew 1 last season, and then won the 3 playoff games. And now they've won 4 and drawn 1 this season. So I mean, what are you meant to do? It's ridiculous from Luna, and as a result, they are indeed 3 games clear. If they'd dropped any games to Cagliari, their lead would have looked much more assailable, but as it is, they're looking quite confident in first position, especially when teams like Hamud and Odyssey are going toe-to-toe and finding draws and taking games off of each other. It's going to be a really good fight, though, I think, going into these last 2 weeks. 0-0 Prospects only 1 game behind all 3 of the other teams in the top 4, so we'll have to wait and see if Cagliari, Austrian Force, or Centurions, if any, then can mount a bid. I think Centurions literally need all of the results to go in their favour, so it's not going to be very likely from them. But Cagliari, after that 0-4 sweep to Luna Esports, can they bounce back? Can they still make a run at it? Because all of these teams above them are going to be fighting for every single game to get into these playoffs, and it's going to be really challenging for the team that's 5 games off of that playoff mark. But again, the main point is just how amazing Luna Esports are.
Amazing. I mean, the question is, what team is going to do it if there is a team? Well, we'll have to find out if a team can respond to that. But Hamud, sitting in third, they've got 4 draws. I mean, wow, it just shows you don't need to win. You just win 1 series, boom, you're up there. But they got to keep that alive. They want to keep those playoff spots in. But Ignis conference time for you, Sennji, as we do see, as always, a tough fight here in the top 4. And after that top 4, we see it die down. But it's not all yet over for these teams.
Absolutely. I mean, there is still 8 games to be held. Dark Magic could still go to 16 wins, and who knows, if Solis forfeit or lose all of their next games, then Dark Magic's going to be in. Who knows? And for the other teams, it's going to be even less hard to knock them out. But we definitely see a little bit of a two-class table here, with the top 4 kind of sorting themselves already out 2 weeks before the season is actually going to end. Obviously, MCon, LG Ultra Gear, they had only 2 series so far. One which they won, one which they got a draw out from. So their performance definitely doesn't quite show on the table. Just because they inherited a previous team doesn't mean that they deserve to be in 6th place. Maybe they will really have a good last 2 weeks and show us and get up into those top 4.
Hopefully they can make a run for it, and you never know, that 1 game FF, it could be the difference. And imagine if it was, the scenes. But as we finish the standings, we head over to the fixtures to see who is going to play who in these last couple of weeks for the Premier tier. And starting off with you, Barmanitan, which results here are going to be the most, obviously, I was thinking of a cool word, but I completely flopped it. Either way, take it away with the fixtures.
The one that's most important for the playoff spots is going to be 0-0 versus Finale tomorrow, because they're one of the Finale, one of the 3 tie teams in 0-0, the one that's 1 game behind in 5th position. So that's going to be huge, and I think they both come off of a win last week, so they've got the momentum to go forward. 0-0 Prospects unbeaten in 3, Finale on with 2 wins on the bounce. It's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. Luna Esports versus the Odyssey. Luna Esports could pretty much lay claim to first place here if they find a win or a sweep onto the Odyssey, but in the other direction, if Odyssey grab a result from them, then the Odyssey could be the ones heading up into that trophy position. Cagliari versus Centurions. If that is a draw, they might both be out, I think, so one of them definitely needs to take out. Centurions definitely need to sweep to stay in it. Cagliari could maybe get away with dropping a game, but either way, they're still going to want all four to maximise their chances of being able to catch up. Then Hamoud, Austrian Force, one of the other teams that really need results going in their favour and going up against an unbeaten Hamoud. Yes, they take on some results from TT Vilhaben, but they've gotten 3 draws of their own accord against top-notch opposition, so Hamoud is going to be very difficult for Austrian Force to get a result from.
Heading over into that Ignis conference. Sennji, any of these matchups you look forward to yourself?
I would say I look forward to every one of these matchups, even though they aren't quite scheduled yet. But what we see here this week is every top 4 team is going to face one of the bottom 4 teams. And in the end, if we go by, this team is higher in the standings than the other team, it is going to separate the table and make sure who is going to be in the top 4, who's going to be not in the top 4 at the end of the season. But if we see upsets, if we see something going against the, in quotation marks, script you would expect, it is going to shake up the table and it's going to bring everybody closer together and basically nearly allow everybody to kind of stay in competition for the playing spots. So if it is Trinitas Esports versus Dark Magic, or MCOM LG Ultra Gear versus London Esports, or Nami Brigade versus Solis, or DOS Soccer to Knoll, every one of these games is going to shake up the table.
Going to shake up indeed, but also we've got to wait for those games to finish to see how shaken up it gets. But that is the Premier Tier all done and finished. And before we head over to that special guest, we've got the franchise standings to see who's been holding up there. And there's been a lot of movement here, except from first to last. But who wants to have the pleasure and joy of taking this one away with all of this movement?
I did it last week. Let's do Barmanitan. That didn't change much for myself.
It did not, but yeah. Of their closest competitor, Galamo, as Arctic Frenzy are overtaken by the Portuguese-led franchise. Then Fort Templar overtaking Fearless Imtra and Shaman into 4th position on 152 wins, pushing back up into the top 4 for the first time in quite a while, I think, from Friday's franchise. And Overture and Dark Magic will overtake Forge on 147 wins, the pair of them, and Forge dropping down into that double-digit mark, but at least staying in the top half, which is good for them. Sanctuary will overtake 141. Systema Solaris overtake Element Esports, but they're both only on goal differences. Systema Solaris and Element Esports tied on 132 wins. Waifu Fan Club get their overtake on Deluna Esports on 130. And then closing out the table, your Vault-Tec, Might of Hades, 90 Esports, and Override not moving at all, but there's still a chance for them to try and finish off with this bottom 4, even if it is increasingly unlikely.
Well, that is going to wrap it up for the franchise standings, but we move on to the special guest for this week. And for this week, it is the one and only, the man himself, Kingsman Gas. Welcome here to the RSCast.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Well, for me, it's probably good morning for me, but good evening to yourself. But before we get away with the questions, do you want to kind of introduce yourself and tell the people about yourself?
Yes, I'm Kingsman, as most of you probably know me as, not Kingsman Gas. I am a rival player this season playing for Uranium, and recently got into casting for RSC, which I'm absolutely enjoying at the moment.
That's good to see. That's where I started my journey, so I'm glad to see new casters like you come along, and I must say you're doing good so far. But obviously, before I pass you over to my 2 amazing colleagues here on the RSCast, who look good as ever, I first will ask you, the question about the Uranum side, how amazing has it been with Luke to rise up these standings? What's your opinion on this roster with Luke coming in on the rise for play-ins?
It's been absolutely amazing, considering before Luke came in, we were 9th with struggling form. Just to see us skyrocket up that table with pretty much, I think, an unbeaten form now is just, it's brilliant to see, especially with us coming into the closing 2 weeks.
And I'll ask you for a little bit of prediction, to see if it backfires on you by the end of league play. But obviously, sitting in 6th currently, where do you see your team finishing heading into those play-ins, or maybe even playoffs? But I don't think that will happen as much.
You never know, but I think we'll probably end up keeping 5th or 6th at the rate we're going on, because teams around us are winning, getting good results. But you never know. Top 4 might be necessary.
I mean, I think you should go for that 4th. I'm not going to lie, Concerto, they're tied with Sanctum. Sanctum did just get swept, so you never know. Anything could happen. But I'm going to leave it off from me for now. But Sennji, we'll head over to you first. Got any questions for the GOAT himself?
I've got many questions for Kingsman. Many questions.
Ah.
No, first question that I kind of have: how did you get into applying, or how did you think of applying for casting, and how have you experienced being a caster so far?
So first of all, it was mainly done through a mate of mine. Like in real life, he started casting like Rocket League just show matches, and it's something which I looked on. I was like, oh wow, this seems like really fun. So I tried it out like casting in one of his tournaments, and I thought, well, this is really fun. And someone said, oh, you should apply for IAL or RSC casting. So end of last season, I did some playoffs and play-ins casting for IAL, which was honestly really enjoyed it, and I wanted to go further. So applied obviously for more, and then one day out, I tell you, this was out of the blue. I got a DM from Arch saying would I like to be on the casting team for RSC, and obviously pushing hopefully up for more opportunities. I took the offer with open arms, and yeah.
And obviously you've already had some games to cast, and I hope you really enjoyed those. On another note, you've been recently also very good when it comes to your league play games, but something tells me next week you might lose. Do you agree?
I wonder why you're saying that, Sennji. Is it because we might be playing Erebos next week?
Can't be.
Nah, but honestly, that if anyone, I think Zyphos closed the game, coming off a 4-0 against Erebos, which is interesting to watch from your stream. Actually, I watched it from your stream, picked up a few hints and tips. So, yeah, I'm sure we'll be fine. Another positive week, hopefully, to secure that top 6 against two teams who are also fighting for that top 6. So yeah, hopefully we can get a positive week.
Very nice, and especially for those in chat that might be wondering, to get into casting themselves, do you think, or do you have any tips for them to come in as a new caster into the RSC casting team? What they could do, what they could show, and so on.
Just be confident and just don't have a go at yourself. If you just say it as you think it is, that's probably the best thing. If someone makes a mistake, you can just go, oh, that's an interesting mistake, or you don't have to be also always so nice. But yeah, and if you get that experience, and as I was told, you need to have a webcam. Apparently, I didn't know that, but yeah, apparently that helps having a webcam. So yeah.
Wonderful. Now I'll hand you over to Barmanitan then.
Yeah, I'll welcome to the RSCast, and I mean it's also a bit of a welcome to RSC. You know, your debut season, so I will of course ask the RSCast Classic. You know, we've talked about how you got into the casting. How did you get into the RSC? How did you discover this league, and you know how do you think it compares to the other experiences in Rocket League?
So last season, I decided from Cefic actually. Cefic advised I join IAL as academy to build like team experience and threes, because at the time I couldn't play threes to save my life. So I joined IAL and played that last season. And obviously, at the end of the season, that we were told they were having a long break to sort a few things out. And I saw the RSC like draft league, and I thought, oh, a draft league, that seems like appealing. So obviously joined it, and originally was going to sign up as a perm free agent because I thought my work would be too much to play the league series. But just before the end, like 2 weeks before the end, I changed it just so I could play and get the team experience. And honestly, it's probably the best decision I've made in the last few weeks, last month even. It's been a blast.
Yeah, it's always great to get new people joining in the RSC in general, and also in the community. You know, you've been interacting a lot with RSC, and you know how do you find that community aspect? You've been doing really well, obviously, recently with that roster change, but you know you hang out a lot, and they might have hit East server as well. So how do you think it performs as a community? And I don't know, it's slightly cringe, but as a family, as a whole.
No, not cringe at all. But due to roster change, I just want to say, I see you saying Luke Carey in chat. That couldn't be more true. I know, I know Luke will take pride in saying that. But yeah, And yeah, the community is, yes, it's great. Everyone interacts in their own server, and yeah, it's been nice to know, especially some of the GMs a lot closer that I didn't know before. Like for example, your Sennji and even potentially your Buddha. So it's been really nice. Yeah.
And I'll end it with an either or. Are you more excited? Play some playoff matches both. What do you think is more appealing to you in the closing ends of the season?
Probably to play in them, because the form and the momentum we're on right now, I think we could be up the top towards like the end of play-ins and playoffs, because we are on, as I've said before, an absolute run at the minute. Drawing with Blizzard this week, those are a huge result, and it shows we can compete with those top teams.
Yeah, great to hear. Lots of confidence from you as a player and as a caster. So great to have you here on the RSCast. Thank you for answering my questions. And but you got anything else to add?
Yeah, I got one final question before we send you off and away far into Narnia. My final question, obviously, you picked up on how you obviously joined IL to kind of improve on threes for being a twos player. Would you have any, because we see a lot of twos players join leagues nowadays. Do you have any kind of advice for those twos players coming into these 3v3 leagues?
Yeah, twos and threes, completely different game modes. I know lots of people who are twos mains that think they're the same. They're not. If you just play like enough threes and watch like rotation, like watching videos, like rotation videos on like how to hit the ball, and even getting in just a good team like in general to play with like in threes is massive for helping you learn. But yeah, don't just go into threes when you want to when you're twos main thinking, oh, this will be easy. It's just like twos. It's completely different. Just do your research and play normally, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, twos, man. It's not all about mechanics, right? You got to use a little bit of that brain in threes. As I love to say that to twos players personally. But Kingsman, thank you for coming along here on the RSCast. We are so happy to have had you here tonight, and I hope you have a great rest of your night.
Yes, thank you, and thank you all of you for having me. Thank you. Have a good night.
See ya.
Good night.
Yeah.
Well, what a guest we had. But I think we did have a result come in. I think it was a Temple result. We had a result of Bladesmiths winning onto Temple 3-1. So Bladesmiths, they're holding that number one spot. So it's a very good result for them. And we also had the Prospect overturned 3-1 onto Underworld. Overturn, I mean, they just come out of nowhere.
Three on the points. What's going on?
We've got Zulus everywhere. They're just branching out into different tiers at this point. Papusa, what are you doing? Have you DM them, took them under your wing or something? But either way, what great results they are for those respected teams. But also we finished up with the guest, heading over now on to the clip of the week. And trust me, guys, you're going to want to watch this. There are some bangers for this week. So let's get into clip of the week.
But the defense has been really lackluster. Seiko with an amazing 50!
In this one, picks up the boost. Can he attack it? Up for it, dribbling, spinning. Is he going to pass or is he going to shoot himself? He should shoot himself, but he scored! What a goal from North! End to end.
Side is really doing everything they can, but really cannot find that's a goal needed. Subsequently, it's a 0-0 after the early onslaught, but a great pass from Grog, and Tucker, he may not be scoring goals.
Of course, they have scored a couple goals and had a bit of time on offense, but the defense has been really lackluster. Seiko with an amazing 50! Gets it to the backboard, finds the double tap, and
This is amazing. Wow. I mean, we say how it gets better week by week, but this week, all of them being from the elite tier, and I mean, just wow.
They all stepped up their game. Every single goal is huge once more. We have team plays, we have solo plays, we have ridiculous dunks. The elite just seemingly has it all, and I think all the other tiers just have to stand back and give them a round of applause.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I was in the VC probably with Kingsman Gas this week at some point, and we were just talking about, has somebody uploaded clip of the week potentially? And I'm like, sure, I'll quickly go checked it on the sheets, and then whilst checking the sheet saying, nah, this guy hasn't uploaded anything, I just see on my left eye, I just see kind of, oh yeah, something's popping up. It was the clip of Rapids. I was like, cool, Rapids has uploaded something. I look at it, look at the clip, I see Rapids is still in VC with one of his teammates. Let me join them and congratulate him to that hell of an angle. Like, not gonna lie, he had the measurements down to the millimeter on this one.
Yeah, I mean, down to the millimeter, he's actually tied first for winning it. Tied to Seiko, just taking it by a vote. But chat, make sure you all are voting for your favourite clip for this week. But starting with you, Barmanitan, which one has got to be your favourite?
The Rapids one is something special. It's reminiscent of that Destiny. I think it was clip of the season in season 6. And, just another one of those crazy angles off of the wall. But I voted for Psycho. The dunk was too much. Even if it probably meant less in the game because I'd already won it, I think it was still really, really impressive. But all 5 are again. But I think Rapids and Psycho are ahead by the finest of margins.
I'm guessing, Sennji, yours is Rapids as well, I'm assuming.
Yes, mine has been Rapids. Look, if
perhaps
if my teams are all kind of at the bottom of the table, at least get a win there,
You got to get a win somewhere, but it's looking good for now. Only winning by 2 votes by Rapids, but very few seconds left to go. But it is Rapids who is going to win Clip of the Week for week number 7. Seiko coming in second with 8 votes. Anthony in third with 2 votes. North and Grog tying, well, technically for fourth with 1 vote, but honourable mentions for all of these players that obviously didn't win it. The clips were insane this week. So, as always, let's run it one more time and see those crazy goals.
On offense, but the defense has been really lackluster. Seiko with an amazing 50!
In this one, picks up the boost. Can he attack it? Up for it, dribbling, spinning. Is he going to pass or is he going to shoot himself? He should shoot himself, but he scored! What a goal from North! End to end.
Side is really doing everything they can, but really cannot find it. That's a goal needed. Subsequently, it's a 0-0 after the early onslaught, but a great pass from Tucker, from Grogger, and Tucker, he may not be scoring goals.
Of course, they have scored a couple goals and had a bit of time on offense, but the defense has been really lackluster. Seiko with an amazing 50! Gets it to the backboard, finds the double tap, and
happens.
Well, there we go. Again, congratulations for Rapids for winning Clip of the Week. But we go from the joyful winners to now the embarrassing winner. We go to fail of the week. But for this week, we haven't got multiple submissions. It's just one. You haven't already, chosen a winner. So let's see who the winner of fail of the week is for week number 7.
It's never been outplayed better than this one, not gonna lie. Like we had Maurice sub up this week due to a bit of issues in the roster for Challenger, and Maurice, he's been great. He scored a ton of goals. Sadly, sometimes he didn't quite know which goal to score on. And in this instance, I mean, it was on the wrong net, but let's be honest. Such a pre-flip redirect from a prospect.
He blamed it on me because I pre-flipped too much. Apparently that's my fault.
Yes, I agree with that. It is Barmanitan Scotland. None of the players on the field are responsible for that. It's Barmanitan. Wonderful.
I mean, it
dear.
was great placement, beautiful placement.
Absolutely.
Just the wrong side of the pitch, but as always, we got to run it one more time. We got to embarrass him as more as we haven't. Beautiful, beautiful. A great goal, but just in the wrong net. And Sennji, as you picked up, you've won 2 things this week.
Yes.
So, congratulations.
Clip of the week, fail of the week, all the same. I take the dubs.
You got to take them where you can find them. But that's going to wrap up for clip of the week and fail of the week, as we now are going to head into the weekly awards, where this is for the players. This is the bit you look forward to the most. But let's get into the awards and see who popped off in week 7.
Quickly, one more result for you, though. In the elite tier, Zalor swept Saturnia. So that is very much overtaking Saturnia and trying to catch up to that top 2. But into the weekly results, or weekly awards, we will go. In Prospect, we will start off with your MVP for Prelude. It was Mr. Keen with 460 points per game. Your finisher was Joe Robbs for Luna Oberon. 2 goals per game for that player. Striker of the week was JX with somehow... I don't know how these prospects keep up the consistency with 100%, but this time JX takes on the mantle and scores every single shot that they put on net. Playmaker, it's Mr. Keen returning once more for 1.38 assists per game, and Saviour will be Fearless, appearing on the sheet. This time as Dean got 3 saves per game for the Echo side.
And now we go to the Challenger Players of the Week as soon as it loads for me. And as your MVP this week, we've got Detroit, who got a swooping 629 points per game. And naturally, he also got a lot of goals, getting the finisher with 2.5 goals per game. As Striker of the Week, we got Bod Rekislaw with a 75% shooting accuracy. Quarencha takes the playmaker position with 1.25 assists per game. And the savior of the week is the one and only Melty Crispy with 2.5 saves a game.
There we go, Sennji. Another dub for the Might of Hades franchise. Heading up into the rival tier, your MVP for week number 7 is going to be Bob Link with 525 points per game. No, 625, sorry. Went a bit blind there. But Jake is your finisher with 3.13 goals per game. Outstanding amount of goals. And Bob Link, again for striker, 87.50% shooting accuracy. And your playmaker for this week is Mythics with 1.13 assists per game. And your savior, Bob Link, making an appearance again, but apparently for a different team here, with 2.75 saves per game, appearing 3 times. Wow, Bob Link just popping off.
Stupendous from the Sanctum man, even with the slight slip up in the graphic. But into Elite, we will move on. And we start off with the MVP. I pointed him out earlier in the series against Eternia. He kept it up throughout this week, though. Genkinho for Andrew, 491 points per game. Finisher for Venom will be Spartax, 1.5 goals per game. Just pips Ember from Eros to the award. Your striker is Taffy Jones, 88, with 55.5% shooting accuracy. Then your playmaker is Thomas with 1.5 assists per game. And finally, in Elite, we have Sky for Zalor with 2.5 saves per game.
Now, headed into the Master tier, the second highest tier, we've got MVP for Carnage, even though they dropped their first series. But Surf has received 688.5 points per game, and naturally he also had a ton of goals with 2.75 goals. But he was not just scoring a lot, he was also accurate with a 61.11% shooting accuracy. The first award not taken by Surf is going to Pluvo for his 1.25 assists a game. And the savior was Jay Hills with another 2.5 saves a game.
Congratulations, Jay Hills, that the elite player subbing up as well. But heading into the Premier tier, your MVP for this week for Premier is going to be awarded to Brain? Either way, he got it. 545.75 points per game. Also getting finisher as well with 2 goals per game. And your striker is going to be Extendo with 66.67% shooting accuracy. And your playmaker is going to be Lawley, 1.75 assists per game. And your savior is going to be Lexa with 2.75 saves per game.
All 4 of those players taking the awards home will be delighted with their performance this past week. But now it is time for your team of the week. The 6 players that performed the best throughout RSC Week 7. We start off in prospect with Mr. Keane for Prelude. Took home MVP, took home another award as well, but he is your player of the week for prospect. Then it's Petroid for Cerebrus from Galamo Esports. Really well done. For the German this week, from Sentinels in Rival, it's Jake taking home the player of the week this week. Next up in Elite, it'll be Ember for Eros with his Octane riding high on the wave. That is the Eros team. In Elite, in Master, the old Elite, sorry, we will have Run from Zhu with the Splash Explosion doing so well throughout this week for the Zimtra team. And finally, he was your MVP in terms of points. He's also your MVP overall. It's Brain for Solus from Systema Solaris. What a performance by all 6 in RSC week number 7.
Definitely, and after looking at the actual players who've done great, let's see at who has done great in the fantasy standings. For the best weekly managers in each tier, we've got Vector for Prospect with 218 points, the exact same total. Gets B-shaked up in a Challenger. In Rival, Evoke has proven to be knowable with 297 points. Spartax has taken the cake with 279 points in Elite. And the GM, the admin, Yannick himself, has taken the Master tier with 257 points. And for Premier, we got yet another GM and one of the biggest people in the stats background, Mr. Friday, with 157 points.
Congratulations to all of those being those weekly managers. You know, maybe if they can't win games themselves, they could at least win in the Fantasy League. But heading over to, I believe, which is the overall standings for the Fantasy League. It is going to be starting off in number 6. It is going to be Andre with 7,255. And in 5th, it is going to be Deep Sound with 7,383. And Arc in 4th, 7,457. And Mobs clutching up in 3rd with 7,548. And in 2nd, it's going to be Maurice with 7,563. Only just ahead of Mobs. And in 1st, it's going to be Axlos with the lead, 7,890. Closing in to be the first manager to hit that 8,000 mark.
I do not know how Axlos has kept this up so consistently, but miles clear of everyone else in the Fantasy League. Looks destined to take home that trophy. Into the Predictions League, we have your overall leaderboard. In 6th, we will have Jeffo with 124, Buddha just ahead of him in 5th place on 128. Then Arch, even less of a lead, up to 4th place. We have 130s, 4th in both the Fantasy League and the Predictions League, interestingly. 3rd place will be Andre with 156, Yo-Yo on 158 in 2nd, taking the silver at the moment. But in 1st, like we saw in the Fantasy League, someone storming ahead of everyone else. It is Marbs with 195. Doesn't look like anyone's going to be able to catch him.
It certainly is not, and with all the awards been given out, we can present to you the Series of the Week. This week, obviously, with all those elite clips that were contentious for the Clip of the Week, it is just fitting that the Series of the Week is going to be Bladesmiths versus Megumin Cold in the Elite tier. You can find that on YouTube, should be on already, I think. And make sure to leave us a like over there. Make sure to sub in to not miss any Series of the Weeks in the coming ones.
That'd be a great one to watch, you know. Obviously, the transfer of Cairo, you know, from his old team to his new team. So getting the draw onto them as well. It's a big series indeed. But Barmanitan, take us away with the Lunar Statics referral fee.
Yeah, once again, promoting this offer being held by Luna Statics. £100 referral fee and block riding there. You know what it is. If you know someone that wants to sell a caravan, if you refer them to Lunastatics, they will get you the best price and they will get you £100 for your referral. Just hand them over to any of the contact details for Steeblood listed here in the graphic and you will grab onto that. Just remember, you need to sell Static Caravan. Lunastatics is your company.
Oh, as we head over into the sponsors for this league, without them, we wouldn't be able to fund this big of a prize pool that we've got for this season. So, as we are powered by Versus Gaming, Luna Organization, Badass.gg, and HyperX, all thanks to them, why we can do this for the players here in the RSC. So, if you can, make sure to check them out as well, as they are helping funding this season. But guys, as always, it's been a great week of the RSCast, and what a pleasure it is with you two to do it alongside with me this week.
Yeah, great fun as always, and great to have Kingsman Gas on. The guests always stepping up and giving us insightful responses.
Definitely had him a lot in my VCs lately, as you've mentioned before, Barmanitan. It just felt normal to talk with him, and it was definitely fun. And thank you, Buddha, for the great host. And from my side, wish you everyone a good night.
I'll see. Thank you for Archeon in the background. He's been, clicking the buttons away, dealing with our three voices in his ear for almost 2 hours. So big thanks to him. And also, obviously, the chat. Thank you for you guys. This great community. Thank you for being here with us tonight. But it's going to wrap it up for the RSCast for tonight. But there will be streams this week for those games. And they're going to be big games for this week, as it is week 8 of league play as we head into those last final 2 weeks for the play-ins and the playoffs. So they're going to be some big series to watch out for. And I believe there might be a poll. So make sure to, just stay looking around for those stream polls. But until then, we'll see you guys in the next stream, which will be with some very exciting series. But until then, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Closer, we can do my place. Maybe we can try meeting up by 7. You'll be saying over, so it's guaranteed. I'll be forever thinking more about you and me. I don't wanna let you go. I don't wanna let you go. Tell me what you want to know. Run your fingers down me so. 'Cause you're in my head. You are. 'Cause you're in my head. 'Cause you're in